Director of Policy and Research at the Education Justice Project, which is a higher education and prison program based at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. I got involved in this work because I worked with a prison education program when I was in undergrad myself. And as a first generation student, I saw how the support that I received really opened up what was possible in higher education. And I want to be able to provide some of that expanded access and freedom dreaming to some of our incarcerated loved ones here in Illinois. Thanks for having me, Julie.
Thank you. And next up, we have Orlando.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Orlando Mayorga. Feel free to call me Chili. I currently serve as a program officer for an organization or foundation here in the city of Chicago called Polk Bros Foundation. I guess I could say that I joined the Education Justice Project, one, because originally my intent in pursuing education was more of a transactional goal, meaning that I thought if I kept going to school, I would get a good job when I came home. And what I ended up finding as a result of being part of the EJP program was, as I was sharing earlier with Julian and the Restore Justice team, along with my colleagues, was that I found my purpose. I found my purpose rooted in community. I found my purpose rooted in the community that, folks like Eric Nava allowed me to learn from, not only what they were saying, but from what they were doing. And that's exactly what folks like Eric and other students at EJP were doing prior to me learning what that would be like. And thankfully, I was blessed and fortunate to be at the right place at the right time when EJP started at Danville Correctional Center, and just happy to now be building community with all of you tonight.
Thank you for coming. And last but not least, Eric.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. And yeah, I'm Eric Nava, Chili's friend and ex-cellmate. So I've been with EJP since 2008. After my release from Danville Correctional Center, I was deported to Mexico, where I currently live now, even though I was brought to the U.S. when I was 4 months old. My role with EJP at the moment is I coordinate their scholarship program. Every year we give out scholarship to people who have been affected by incarceration, be it themselves have been incarcerated, family members, even staff of correctional centers. And I also coordinate EJP's emergency fund, where we give monetary assistance to people getting out of prison. So initially when they get out, in the first pivotal month, where they're looking for some type of financial aid to get food, meds, housing, anything. That's the work I've been doing lately. And through that is one way I've been able to stay in the community, in the loop, with helping people getting out of prison in the state of Illinois, especially Chicago, where I grew up, because living in Mexico as somebody who didn't live here, it's difficult for me to find a niche and communities where I feel I'm fully accepted as Mexican, even though I was born here. So glad to be here and glad to be a part of this panel.
Okay. Sorry, I'm sending someone the link. I am going to, without further ado, we're going to get started with Ashton. And she's going to share her screen.
Sorry, I'm like, this is my moment. And then I run into tech difficulties. So let me just get this slideshow up for everyone. Are you seeing the slide?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
While she's getting that set up, I wanted to say we'll keep an eye on your questions in the chat while she's presenting, and then we will share the questions later, and we'll make sure that you get them answered while we're here or afterwards. So feel free to add them in there, and we'll keep an eye on them.
Thanks, Lizzie. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. We'll start with just an overview of the landscape of higher ed in prison in Illinois. There are currently 12 programs at 10 different Illinois Department of Corrections facilities. Throughout this presentation, I will rely heavily on two acronyms. One is Higher Education in Prison, or HEP, and the other is the Illinois Department of Corrections, or IDOC. Of those 12 programs, there's one associate degree program, 5 bachelor's degree programs, 1 master's degree program, and the other programs offer a mixture of for-credit and not-for-credit coursework. All of these programs are offered at no cost to students. There is a slight asterisk. We'll get to it when we get into the program details. There is one program that requires students to either be Pell eligible or to be able to pay for their own tuition. But that's a rare model, and often if there's a student that doesn't have the funds, they work with them to find institutional funds to fill that gap. These 12 programs serve 459 students across 10 Illinois Department of Corrections facilities. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you're seeing the IDOC facilities that have higher education in prison. And on the right side, you're seeing the higher education institutions that offer their program at those given facilities. So there are 9 of the 27 IDOC correctional centers and 1 of the 2 life skills reentry centers. Unfortunately, access is still very limited. Across IDOC, only 1.8% of incarcerated people are currently enrolled in a higher education in prison program. So you're seeing on the left side of your screen the list of higher education institutions that offer a higher ed in prison program. And on the right, you're seeing the number of enrolled students in those programs. What you're not seeing is the many facilities that don't have higher education opportunities. Approximately 63% of incarcerated people in our state, or over 18,000 individuals, are held in facilities that don't have a higher ed in prison opportunity, other than correspondence, which we'll get to and comes with its own sort of cost-benefit analysis. Where higher education in prison programs are offered, enrollment is limited by several factors, including physical space, program design, faculty capacity, IDOC restrictions on participation, and funding, just to name a few of them. As you can see here, program enrollment ranges from 7 to 128, with an average enrollment of 44 students per program. Or for a breakdown by IDOC facility, you have an average of 53 students per IDOC facility where higher ed in prison is offered. Next, I'm going to go through each of the 12 programs and give you a few specifics on what they offer and what the opportunities are to get involved as a student. The first program is Adler University. Administered through Adler University's online campus, Adler offers a Bachelor of Science in Applied Psychology degree program. This is a degree completion program that requires students to have 60 credit hours before being eligible to enroll. In addition to those 60 credit hours, students must have a 3.0 GPA. This is important to know because this is one way that you can support your loved one, by helping them obtain transcripts and other verification of prior credits. If students or applicants don't have that information, it can take the program a long time to verify those prior credits, and so it can be really helpful to have that documentation up front. Adler is one of 2 programs that provides instruction through remote means, or via Zoom. Students are provided with university laptops to access recorded instruction, virtual advising, class materials, a digital library, and individual and group-based assignments. Adler's graduating their first cohort at Big Muddy River Correctional Center on Thursday, and they will be enrolling their second cohort at Logan Correctional Center. That cohort will involve 10 students and have the same requirements that I mentioned earlier. My understanding is that recruitment at Logan has already begun. So if you have a loved one at that facility, they may have already heard of this upcoming opportunity, or they could reach out to the education facility administrator at their correctional center to request more information. Because this program is remote, released students can continue with their cohort while they're on mandatory supervised release. They aren't able to join a campus cohort because it doesn't exist at this point in time. Adler University is a graduate level institution, and their program at Big Muddy is currently their only bachelor's level program. For students that choose to continue their education elsewhere, Adler offers the Quintana Last Mile Scholarship. This is a scholarship for currently and formerly incarcerated individuals who started their college education while incarcerated and require funding to proceed with their educational goals. And last but not least, it's important to note that Adler University is the home of ILCHEP. ILCHEP is the Illinois Coalition for Higher Education in Prison. This group advocates for greater access to quality higher education opportunities for all people who are incarcerated in Illinois, while also supporting policies that will abolish our state's and nation's reliance on criminalization and incarceration. And at the very end of this presentation, I'll give you a little bit more information about how you might join ILCHEP if you're interested in supporting this work. The next program is at Augustana College, or the Augustana Prison Education Program, or APEP for short. APEP offers a Bachelor of Arts in American Studies or Communication Studies at East Moline Correctional Center. Admission requires a high school diploma or its equivalent, but students are selected based on their ambition and willingness to work hard rather than their academic history. APEP does not consider an applicant's age, criminal conviction, or details of sentencing during the admissions process. The admissions process involves a 2-hour essay application that involves a writing exercise in response to a choice of challenging texts. This admissions process typically occurs in May or June. So if your loved one is at East Moline or elsewhere, they might want to be on the lookout for information about this upcoming opportunity. Augustana faculty admissions representatives read and rank the essays and conduct in-person interviews to determine who's selected for each cohort. Following those decisions, letters are mailed to each applicant indicating acceptance, rejection, or waitlist status. APEP is planning to enroll 18 new students in the fall through statewide admissions, which means you don't have to be incarcerated at East Moline to apply to the program. It is worth noting, though, that your loved one would have to be eligible for transfer to a minimum security facility. And so depending on their security classification, that may or may not be possible. As mentioned previously, the best first step is for prospective students to go to the EFA, the Education Facility Administrator, to first confirm that they have a GED or high school equivalency, and then the EFA will send a list of eligible applicants to APEP, who will reach out with next steps. Accepted students are required to enroll in the Augie Summer Reads program before their first semester of coursework. Regardless of previous college credit, the first semester of coursework remains the same for all enrolled students, and students who complete that first semester can then apply to transfer relevant previous college credits, just as any student at any other institution would. APEP has planned coursework that leads to graduation in 4 years. Because it is a full-time program, it precludes enrollment in other programs. So this is something that would prevent your loved one from possibly enrolling in another program at the same time. APEP cannot guarantee 5 days per week in class, which is a requirement for receiving good time. However, they strive to make that available, and so APEP students do receive good time in those instances. It just sort of depends on how the schedule for that particular semester shakes out. And it's important to note that APEP has done a really great job of supporting people upon their release as well. Multiple students have continued their studies on campus, and actually the first person to graduate from Augustana College graduated on campus in 2024, and they're having their next graduation at East Moline in May. The next program is the One Associate Degree program in Illinois. That's offered by Danville Area Community College. They offer an Associate in Arts degree, which is transferable, and in some instances, an Associate in General Studies degree. Generally, the Danville Area Community College advises students to pursue the transferable degree, but there are some instances, for example, if a student was being released soon and had enough time to complete the non-transferable degree, but not the transferable degree, then they might be advised to pursue that other option. Beyond the degree programs, they offer a career technologies course that provides training in job preparedness and life skills for people that are nearing their release date. This is the only community college in Illinois that's offering both a degree program and vocational programs. You may be aware of community colleges that are operating in other facilities, and those community colleges are offering vocational programs. We hope in the future to see an expansion of community colleges offering academic programs and degree programs, but we haven't seen additional institutions offer that since pre-pandemic. Potential applicants at Danville that are interested can write a request slip to Bailey Maxey. She is one of the few program directors that actually has an office in the correctional center. And so you can write the request slip, give it to the education office, and it will get to her directly. It is worth noting, though, that an assessment test is required prior to enrollment, and those assessment tests are only offered periodically. And really, they're offered when the institution has the ability to take on more students. The Danville Area Community College is exploring now shifting to more of a cohort model, which would allow them to serve more students more effectively. But as it stands right now, students take courses at their own pace and have the ability to choose what to take in a given semester. For those students that are full-time status allows eligible folks to receive good time for participation, but like mentioned previously, can preclude participation in other full-time programs. Available courses and number of courses varies by semester. Sometimes it could be 6 in a semester, sometimes it could be closer to 14. It really depends on what their faculty is available for. And finally, if released, students can seamlessly continue their education with Danville Area Community College. They are considered DAC students and not required to reapply upon release. The next program is Eastern Illinois University, or EIU. EIU offers a Bachelor of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies at Danville Correctional Center. The program is a flexible, transfer-friendly degree program designed for students with prior college experience. Eastern will accept up to 100 semester hours in transfer, including credits earned at a community college and credits earned through military or other professional training. After admission to the program, students meet with their academic advisor to conduct a prior learning assessment and review degree requirements. That prior learning assessment involves matching prior knowledge and experience to specific courses at EIU in order to award credit for that prior experience. EIU offers 5 to 8 classes per semester, and students can take courses at their own pace and decide which to take in a given semester. Because of this, how long a student remains in the program varies, and most students elect to pursue a degree with distinction, which requires 56 credit hours in addition to the 40 credit hours that are required to enroll. EIU admits new students every semester and admits everyone that is interested in and eligible. EIU applications are also available in the education office at Danville. The application form consists of basic questions and is used primarily to determine where students previously attended so that EIU can then verify that educational history. Eligible EIU students receive good time for their participation, and when released, can continue the program by transferring to one of EIU's online programs. There are some barriers to attending on campus, but a clear pathway to continuing online. We're excited that EIU has graduated 28 students and is looking to graduate 7 to 8 more in May. The next program is our newest program. Illinois Wesleyan University has started offering an Inside Out reading group at Lawrence Correctional Center. For those of you that might not be familiar with the Inside Out model, this involves students from the campus taking classes with students at the correctional center. Illinois Wesleyan's model is unique because it is inside out, but it is done remotely. And so 10 students at Lawrence Correctional Center and 3 students from Illinois Wesleyan meet weekly over Zoom to discuss whatever book they're reading at that time. This program just launched in mid-February, and so they are determining what expansion and growth will look like next. There's interest in offering 4-credit courses, potentially looking at a degree pathway, but as it stands now is existing as an inside-out reading group. Knox College, through its Peace and Justice Studies program, offers traditional and inside-out courses at Hill Correctional Center. Previous traditional courses have included creative writing, art, and Spanish, but mainly Knox College has offered inside-out courses, which has involved 10 Hill students and 10 Knox students learning together as peers. Coursework thus far has been not for credit, though Knox hopes to offer 4-credit courses in the near future and is also exploring what a degree pathway might look like. There is no admissions process and no eligibility requirements. Interested students can sign up with the Education Facility Administrator at Hill. And as it stands now, students are required to reapply for each course that they want to take. Next, we have Lewis University. Lewis provides a full-time Bachelor of Arts degree program in professional studies at Sheridan Correctional Center and Kewanee Life Skills Reentry Center. Professional studies is a flexible major that offers a lot of electives, general education requirements, and workforce skills. Students move through the degree in a cohort format and have the opportunity to take general education courses, including English, philosophy, sociology, science, communications, and even earn a minor in business administration as they work towards that Bachelor of Arts. This program is a very broad transfer-friendly degree program that targets adult populations and provides college credit for prior experience and non-credit learning. The very first course that students take with Lewis is a course that allows them to put together a portfolio that demonstrates their prior learning. Eligibility requirements include a high school diploma or GED, 6 months of 100 to 200 level ticket free. That's an IDOC imposed requirement, not a Lewis requirement. Students must also be eligible to transfer to a medium security facility. They must have a TABE score of 8 or higher. And this is the one program I mentioned that students must either be Pell eligible or able to fund their education by other means. In some instances, this has meant that students are being covered by funding from Lewis University. And in some instances, this means that students have had their own way, ability to pay for their own tuition. Lewis is another program that conducts statewide admissions. So if your loved one wants to learn more about this program, they should contact the education facility administrator at their facility, and then they'll receive information about the upcoming admissions process. This is another full-time program, meaning that eligible students can receive good time, and also that enrollment in Lewis's program precludes enrollment in other programs. Last but not least, it's worth mentioning that Lewis has made a really intentional effort to hire incarcerated teaching fellows. These are individuals in custody that have already received their master's or bachelor's degree. They're hired as instructors of record that offer writing and academic support and are compensated as Lewis staff. They are compensated at the same rate that adjunct faculty teaching at Lewis University are compensated. So this is a really incredible opportunity to seek employment and be paid real world wages. Next is Millikan University. Millikan University offers 2 programs at Decatur Correctional Center. Shakespeare Corrected is Millikan's longest standing program at Decatur. It's a volunteer-based program that brings Millikan students together with incarcerated students to create an artistic experience that results in an atmosphere of respectful inclusion and supported expression. It's a 9-month program that hones students' skills through monologues and discussion in the fall, building to a full-scale Shakespeare play in the spring. Cut down from the original versions, these productions are about 90 minutes long and are performed for friends, family, and other incarcerated people at Decatur. Millikan does not determine eligibility, so any potential participants are forwarded to institutional affairs for approval. Every August, prospective participants are invited to participate in a sonnet exercise. This exercise allows them to determine if they are interested in participating in the full-scale production. If so, they continue, and casting for the full-scale production usually takes place in early December. More recently, Millikan launched the Autumn Taylor Initiative for prison education. This has allowed them to expand their offerings to include for-credit and not-for-credit coursework. The next program is North Park Theological Seminary. Administered through the Theological Seminary, North Park University's School of Restorative Arts is the only graduate-level higher ed and prison program in Illinois. Their programs prepare students for ministries of restoration in contexts susceptible to violence. In the past, North Park has offered a Master of Restorative Justice Ministry degree, a Transformative Justice certificate, and a Writing Advisor certificate that has allowed those with the certificate to offer courses to other incarcerated individuals at their facility. I note that this is in the past rather than current tense. Because of the Stateville closure, North Park has been navigating a transition from Stateville to Illinois River, and that has impacted what they can offer. And I think they're still navigating exactly what their program's going to look like at Illinois River. Previous eligibility requirements were just a GED and demonstrated competence. You don't need a bachelor's degree to enroll in this master's level program. The application process has involved a writing sample, personal essay, interview, and pre-enrollment course. North Park has conducted statewide admissions in the past, but in recent years has recruited within the facility they're based at. So it's unclear how their recruitment might roll out this time around. Students learn in integrated classrooms of both outside and inside individuals studying together. And for those full-time students, they are eligible to receive good time credit. North Park has also instituted a number of opportunities for graduates. One of those is the Contextual and Lifelong Learning Think Tank. Graduates are given the opportunity to opt in to this lifelong learning community, and programming varies depending on their interests. So in the past, some of these opportunities have included grant writing courses, finance courses, nonprofit management workshops. For alumni who want more specialized training, North Park is piloting a certificate in pastoral companioning. And once completed, graduates would be distributed throughout the units at Illinois River and act as peer chaplains on the housing unit. One other great thing of the many that North Park does is they release a bi-monthly publication called Feather Bricks. Feather Bricks is like a literary magazine that features work by incarcerated people from different IDOC facilities that work with outside tutors and design the final publication. Issues are available on IDOC tablets and also online. North Park is committed to supporting students that want to continue the program upon release, including those that want to continue beyond the master's level and pursue a doctoral degree. Several students from IDOC have completed on campus. Some have returned inside via Zoom to complete, and others have joined online programs. The next program is Northwestern University. Northwestern offers a Bachelor of Science in Social Sciences at Sheridan and Logan. This degree involves an interdisciplinary program of study that includes humanities, fine arts, social sciences, and STEM courses. Open to all incarcerated men and women in Illinois who've earned a high school diploma or passed the GED. This is another instance of statewide admissions. IDOC advertises the application cycle and collects applications in early spring. Applications are typically due by mid-April. Completed applications should be submitted to the EFA, who then sends those applications to Maria Miller, the manager of the Office of Adult Education and Vocational Services, for initial approval. Maria ensures that applicants meet IDOC criteria and have earned a high school diploma or passed the GED before sending those applications to Northwestern. Students are then accepted into Northwestern by an admissions committee made up of Northwestern administrators and faculty. The admissions process is rigorous and selective and includes a personal statement, a textual analysis, and an in-person interview. Eligible students receive good time for their participation, and Northwestern offers 3 options for continuing the program upon release. One is to complete under the umbrella of the prison education program by Zooming back in. Another is by completing an online bachelor's degree through Northwestern with no direct connection to the Northwestern prison ed community. And the third is to continue on campus. If this path is chosen, Northwestern Prison Education Program supports students in taking courses as a group so that they can still be with some of their peers. Regardless of the pathway, Northwestern Prison Ed students have wild cards, which allow them to visit the gym, receive free therapy and tutoring, attend football games, and all the perks of being a Northwestern student. Next, we have the one program in Illinois that is actually run by a nonprofit nonprofit organization rather than a higher education institution. That is the Prison and Neighborhood Arts and Education Project, or PNAP. PNAP is a visual arts and education project that connects teaching artists and scholars to incarcerated students. The mission of PNAP is to build relationships of reciprocity that bring artists, scholars, and writers together with incarcerated people in our communities. They believe that access to education and art is a fundamental human right with the capacity to transform people, systems, and futures. A committee identifies new faculty and courses based on student interest and a desire to offer classes in a wide range of subjects taught by faculty that are representative of the student population. Previous classes have been taught by faculty from Dominican University, Northeastern Illinois University, the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and many more. Classes cover subjects ranging from poetry, visual arts, and creative writing to political theory, social studies, and history. During those courses, students develop projects like visual art, creative writing, and critical essays, which are then used as the basis for exhibitions, events, and publications that are shared within and across the walls of the prison. PNAP is the only program that works with students pre and post GED without regard to the length of a student's sentence or the category of offense. So if your loved one doesn't yet have their GED, this might be one way for them to get involved in higher ed. Applications are circulated a few months before a semester begins with a list of the classes that will be offered, and a team of faculty and program coordinators select applicants. Last, I wanted to note for those that are returning, PNAP offers a Learning Fellows program, which provides financial and academic support to formerly incarcerated folks that enroll at Northeastern Illinois University. And also worth highlighting that Northeastern Illinois University is the one higher education institution in our state that does not require criminal history disclosure in the admissions process. And so it's been a really welcoming institution for many formerly incarcerated people. Last but not least is the Education Justice Project, the program that I work with. We're based at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, and this is a list of many of the programs that we offer at Danville Correctional Center. 4-credit courses this year include Intro to Reproductive Justice, Latin American Insurgencies, Introductory Matrix Theory, and Period Studies in Musicology. Writing and Math Partners is EJP's tutoring program. We also have a community library that contains over 4,000 volumes that serve the academic pursuits and research needs of EJP at the prison. The community library is run by our students who serve as library workers and contribute towards development of the library's acquisition policy, library use procedures, and other institutional policies. The Community Anti-Violence Education Program provides EJP students an opportunity to train as peer facilitators and to support others' efforts to engage in social and emotional learning that can lead to greater self-awareness and social change. Trained CAVE facilitators lead bi-weekly sessions around a trauma-informed anti-violence curriculum for members of the group that are younger men from the general population who apply to participate. This program is supported by non-incarcerated members who help to co-facilitate and support the meetings, but the program itself is really run by our students. We use a similar model for Language Partners, which is a peer English as a second language program. Language Partners consists of the incarcerated learners, peer instructors, and University of Illinois affiliated instructor trainers, but the peer instructors, our students, do most of the teaching, thereby equipping themselves for similar work upon reentry. The last two listed are the Mindfulness Discussion Group, which discusses individual mindfulness practices, including the obstacles they encounter and how to overcome them. Members talk about the benefits of mindfulness and the connections between mindfulness and other fields of study. This program is currently transitioning to take on more of a peer instructor model, and is likely to take a new form in the next few months. And lastly is the program that I facilitate, the policy discussion group. This group engages EJP students in monthly discussions on legislative and policy-making processes and proposals. Participating students have the opportunity to learn from subject matter experts and conduct in-depth research and policy analysis on a wide range of policy areas. Most recently, our group met with David Olson from Loyola, and prompted the publication of a new report about truth in sentencing in Illinois. We're looking forward to a subject matter hearing on the 29th, next Tuesday, which, assuming we get all the approvals we need, our students will be tuned in for and testifying at, which will be a first for Illinois. Anyone who has 40 credit hours of lower division academic course credits formally applies to EJP and elects to take one of our courses is considered an EJP student. We accept applications once a year in the spring. So we typically hold information sessions at the prison each March, and applications are due in April. The process includes confirming an applicant's credit hours and contacting all the institutions at which a prospective student has earned academic credit. Students that are accepted into the program must take the new student reading group over the summer. It's important to note that the 40 credit hours that are required does not include vocational courses or 000 level courses. So you'll want to check the transcripts of your loved one to see if they'll meet that requirement. We're currently navigating expansion to Decatur and Menard, so we hope to be able to offer programs at those facilities soon. There are a couple additional EJP opportunities that I want to put on folks' radar. One is the Prison to Gown Pathway. The Prison to Gown Pathway is dedicated to supporting justice-impacted individuals as they pursue higher education on campus at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Recognizing the unique barriers faced by these students, we provide guidance, resources, and referrals to assist them from the application process through graduation, ensuring they receive the support necessary to thrive both personally and academically. To get involved or request resources, I'll share an email address. We really encourage people to reach out early. Unfortunately, our institution is not one of the institutions that has removed criminal history from the admissions process. And so we encourage you to get in touch with us so we can support you from the very beginning of the process. EJP offers several need-based scholarships to provide support for study at secondary or post-secondary institutions in the US or Mexico. I won't say too much about this because this is more in Eric's purview, but just to say there are several categories and several scholarship opportunities for currently and formerly incarcerated people, for their family members, and for people that have been deported from the US to Mexico. We also offer an EJP emergency fund. We accept applications for the emergency fund from any alumni of any higher education in prison program operating in IDOC. The form must be submitted within 6 months of release. And again, that's more in Eric's purview, so I'll let him talk about that a little later. I also wanted to share a bit about our reentry resource program. We produce 3 guides every year. One, Mapping Your Future, is an Illinois reentry guide that has a wealth of information about preparing for reentry while incarcerated, steps to take following release, and directories of resources. Because there was such high demand for our Illinois guide, we have now started to create a national edition. This includes helpful information and advice on topics like employment, healthcare, substance use, and more. with resources for formerly incarcerated individuals throughout the U.S. We also offer a new path. This guide is for people who live with the threat of deportation to Mexico or Central America. It includes portions on know your rights, how to get legal help, and how to make a plan in case of possible deportation. All of these guides are available at the website that you see on the screen, and you can also request free copies for your loved ones. I wanted to put a slide in here towards the end about correspondence programs. I have to say this is not my area of specialty whatsoever. All of the programs that I just talked about are in-person or in-state programs that don't primarily operate through a print-based correspondence model. But for those of you that have loved ones that are at institutions that don't have access to higher ed in prison, this is one of the ways that they might be able to pursue higher education from where they're at. These correspondence programs carry tuition fees and different costs depending on what you're pursuing. All of these are institutions that offer print-based correspondence rather than the vast majority, which all require access to the internet. So this is just some really basic information about how you might learn more about those correspondence programs if that applies to your loved one or you want to explore those opportunities a little bit more. And last is how you might support expansion of higher education in prison. As we talked about at the top, there is a huge need to expand access, with only 1.8% of our incarcerated population currently accessing these opportunities. I wanted to just highlight a few ways that you can support this work. One is to donate. Several higher ed in prison programs in Illinois depend on individual donors as a critical source of funding. I'll share a link for how to donate to EJP, but if there's a specific program that you'd like to donate to, I'm happy to provide that information as well. In addition to donating, I encourage you to participate. Many of these programs welcome volunteers, interns, coordinators, instructors, and even offer some paid positions. I encourage you to contact the program you're interested in getting involved with to find out more about what opportunities are available. For those that might want to support EJP, you can visit our Get Involved page to learn more about those opportunities and ways to join our work. And then you can also advocate. There are two statewide efforts working to support the expansion of higher education in prison. ILCHEP is one that I mentioned earlier. They welcome individual and organizational members. Membership includes networking and guidance with other member organizations, support, advocacy, funding strategy and partnership, representation in meetings with the Illinois Department of Corrections, educational events, policy development, and state-level legislative advocacy. The second is the Freedom to Learn campaign. The Freedom to Learn campaign calls for clear and fair statewide legislation that allows higher education and prison programs to operate free from undue interference or interruption of their students' academic and intellectual pursuits. FTL endeavors to center the needs and voices of prison instructors, incarcerated students, alumni, and families. And to do so, we invite you to join. I wanted to share this fact sheet. This is one of the pieces of legislation that Freedom to Learn is currently working on. It's HB 2466. This is a bill that would change Illinois law to restore access to need-based state aid for higher education. In Illinois, it's called the Monetary Award Program, or the MAP program. Currently, incarcerated students are not eligible for those funds, and this bill would change that. This bill has already passed the House and is now in the Senate, so hopefully on its way to full passage, but we could really use your support. There is a website, backonthemapil.org. And on that website, you can find a letter of support. If this is something that you're in favor of, we'd encourage you to visit and sign that to show your support for the senators that will be considering this bill very, very soon. And with that deluge of information, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to my colleagues that are much more interesting and can talk about what this experience actually meant for them.
Eric and Chili, that's your cue.
I think Eric's having a little bit of technical difficulty with his microphone. I was hoping we could have more of a conversation. So I know that there are a lot of questions in the chat, but I do just want to share a little bit about my experience with EJP and with brothers like Eric as a result of going through that program. So EJP began as a reading group back in 2008, just a regular conversation around a couple of books that were presented to us. And I believe the first book that we got to read or that I got to be part of was the Metaphysical Club. And the name of the book is not that important. I think what's more important is that it created a space for us to be able to have critical conversations around the content that we were reading. And one of the things that EJP very well promoted was not only the reading the words in a book, but reading the words in a book as a way of applying it to the real world context that we were in. For many of us, the reality was that we grew up in impoverished communities in places like the Juvenile Detention Center and ultimately in the adult system. And being able to analyze the systems that we were part of and coming up with solutions, community-based solutions. So all the work that a lot of us are doing out here, we were actually practicing and really learning the theory of it while in EJP. For me, it took a little while to develop these more community-centered ideas and philosophies. But what helped me was being around people like Eric, people like Johnny Page, like Andre Slater, like Bucky, like all these brothers that were doing the community building work even before EJP was introduced into our lives at Danville Correctional Center. And again, what EJP was instrumental in creating were spaces where these ideas could come into fruition. So the programs, many of which Ashton talked about, like the Community Anti-Violence Education Program, like Language Partners, these were ideas that came from the minds of the incarcerated men, and EJP was able to facilitate the growth and really the establishment of creating those programs within EJP, so that even though EJP became a higher education credit bearing program, these programs weren't credit bearing. These were programs that the community of folks that were incarcerated saw fit to create, to offer, so that in addition to the academic growth, we also were receiving more of that intrapersonal development growth, whether it be developing a new identity. And what I mean by that is someone like me who once thought of myself as a convict, as somebody who was doing time, that began to change in me in a way that allowed me to see myself as more than that, as a student, as a person, as a human being. And that, I think, is at the heart of what I feel EJP represents when it speaks of offering a liberatory education, a transformative education. Because for someone like me to go from where I was in terms of not really understanding what my role in the world was, this program allowed me, based on the conditions that EJP was able to create in terms of community building, in terms of relationship building, in terms of just offering humanity, to incarcerated people is what allowed me to again be the person that I am today and the person that I'm continually becoming.
And I
Eric?
think Eric can talk now too, right?
Yes, yes, I can talk. Uh, well, very well put, Chili. Definitely groundbreaking in our experience, especially for the people that were in the system, from the 90s, early 90s, mid 90s, until, even to the ones that are still in there. But I feel more importantly, what EJP was to many of us, of course, what Chili mentioned about putting us in this space where we were regarded as scholars, that what we said mattered, our lived experiences, uh, were pivotal for the classes, not only for our growth, but also for the instructors' growth in terms of creating curriculums, right? But I feel that for the longest time, people like Chili, me, Jojo, and all the people Chili mentioned, we already had like 130 credit hours of community college courses, right? So it wasn't so much that EJP put this vision in our head that this is what we want to do when we get out. We knew what we wanted to do when we got out. We knew we wanted to help contribute to the restoration of communities that we felt we contributed to their destruction in a sense, right? But we didn't have the tools, we didn't have the knowledge, we didn't have access to these books because in our educational careers, our educational history, we were never shown books by Paulo Freire or bell hooks and all these books about love, freedom, and self-care and forgiveness, right? So EJP, what it did for many of us, and particularly I feel for myself, was that it gave me these tools, specifically with language, of what to do with with the energy that I want to do. And aside from that, on a more basic level, EJP in any college program, what it did, even it was break this barrier, this mental barrier that I had because nobody in my family had ever been to college. So for me, higher education, college was unattainable, right? It's college. That's nobody in my neighborhood goes to college. None of my friends go to college. None of their siblings go to college. Their parents are working class immigrants. So when EJP comes, like, okay, that's the University of Illinois. Let's see what it's all about. Let's see what this barrier is. And of course, once you get in there, like the barrier is just in your head. Of course, challenging these societal norms that made me believe that was important. But again, it goes back to the literature. I didn't know how to break that down. So this education that we started receiving within EJP was not only about love and freedom and challenging, the status quo, but it's also challenging the situations that put us in these prisons. People like us, people of color, people from poor communities, like to challenge the systemic racism. Uh, start thinking about prison abolition because in our society, right, in our heads, prisons are part of the U.S. Prisons are normal. But how can we begin to change that mentality and how can we start to challenge that and begin to break it down? Well, from within, right? We're the people that are going back to these communities. We are the people who have siblings, children in these communities growing up. And in a way, we're the people that they will listen to because we come from where they come from. We're related to them. We look like them. And for me, and like Chili said, these programs that we started, like Language Partners, CAVE, that was the first time we were put in the position of leadership in terms of creating our own programs, teaching, listening, learning, and having people listen to us and finally look at us like people.
I would say, just real quick, everybody here probably on this call really thinks that the education in prison is really important.
Absolutely.
I 100%. I think probably a lot of people might kind of get your thoughts on how you got into it. Like, how were you able to apply to those? And what did that look like and what was your path to actually start being able to take classes? Were you always at Danville or? So that Eric, maybe Eric first and then Chili or whatever.
Well, I've noticed some of the questions, and like, I mean, people who went to prison, well, our group, right? Our cohort per se. We went to prison in the 90s for a long period of time. We started at Menard, we started Joliet, we started at Stateville Correctional Center, where there was nothing. I mean, the GED classes were, you had to wait years just to get into GED. But even before then, the county jail in Division I took GED classes through the bars with this woman that used to come and pass me a piece of paper and a little pencil. And in the beginning, for me anyway, because I was young when I was in Stateville, I was 18 in Stateville. You know, I was a kid. So when I finally got out of Stateville after a few years, because Joliet Correctional Center closed down, so everybody who had life and a lot of time in Joliet, they sent them to Menard and Stateville, and everybody with less than 30, 40 years essentially got kicked out to a medium security. So I think I went to Henry Hill Correctional Center, or Galesburg. And then in the beginning, I would go to school to get out of my cell. I would go to school to see my friends that I grew up with that I hadn't seen in years because they were in prison. So while we were in community college, we took the same classes to hang out and of course do some of the work, but it was more hanging out. But I remember for me, pivotally was one point where I didn't get the class everybody else got. So I was in this one like economics class by myself. And I was like, well, I'm already here. I'm not gonna not come to class. I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna give it a shot. And I think from there on, I did the class. I got like a B plus. And in my head, I was like, college is easy. If this is college, I can do it. This is so easy. What have I been scared about? Why didn't nobody tell me about this? And from there, that was in 2001. And like I mentioned earlier, by the time I got to EJP, I had like 160 credit hours. I had 3 associate's degrees because that's all you could take at the time. There was no Pell Grants anymore at the time.
Yeah, similar to Eric's experience accessing education, I received my GED in Cook County Jail at the age of 17. So once I was convicted and sentenced to my time in Illinois Department of Corrections, I ended up going through Joliet, ended up in Stateville, and in Stateville, the only opportunity one had was either to get their GED or to get into the Barber College, which had a waiting list, I think of, I was told 15 years when I first got there. There's a waiting list of 15 years, pretty much good luck. Um, Fortunately, I was only at Stateville for about a year and a couple months. So once I transferred to a medium security prison, which was 5 hours away in Shawnee Correctional Center, there is where I began my academic journey in college. So the process for me was to first contact the education department within the correctional facility at Shawnee through a request slip. Expressing that I wanted to get into the college program. I met with Pam, I can't believe I remember her name, Pam Turner, who was then the education coordinator at the facility. And relatively, in my experience, those people in those positions tend to be friendly in terms of trying to get you to access those programs. So for those of you who have loved ones where there may be a college in prison program, that starts with a community college, I encourage you to encourage them to fill out the request slip to meet with the education coordinator at the facility and see what programs are available. But the first step is getting your GED. I'm not sure what the process is currently if you don't have a GED, but I'm almost certain it's the same process as trying to access the college program. Write a request slip to the education department, let them know you want to get your GED. They'll call you over there within a few days, hopefully, and then begin the process of getting you into the GED program. The challenging part is that I believe that currently there is a long waiting list for people to get into the GED program, and that bottleneck is created through years of I want to be respectful to the IDOC, but years of ignorance, right? People within the system didn't understand how important it was to create pathways, at least create processes for individuals to go from adult basic education to GED to then a higher learning institution. I think right now with the people that are in positions of influence, that process is being hammered out a little better with the guidance of people like Ashton and other higher education and prison stakeholders. But it's many years of just um, um, many years of not doing what was supposed to be done. And another thing that I do want to say that the reason why many of the education stakeholders originally stepped away from being stakeholders within the higher education and prison program space was because of the 94 crime bill. When that 94 crime bill was signed, it pretty much removed all the incentives for colleges and universities to continue doing the work that they were doing, not only in Illinois, but across the nation. And if you're not familiar with the crime bill, it was a bill that was sponsored and pretty much put in play by our former presidents. It doesn't matter, but just understand that when it comes to situations, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, people who are usually harmed when policies are created or advocated for, they usually do harm to Black and brown communities, and that is exactly what the 94 crime bill did.
Yeah, I think we do have some questions, and Kaylee and Lizzie, oh, go ahead, Eric. Sorry, I just want to get to them.
Yeah, and I just want to throw this out there really quickly that to transfer to a prison that has an educational program that you want to go to, I mean, the first step is the person in the prison has to request a transfer, and definitely their disciplinary background comes into play. But at the time when I was incarcerated, what a lot of people were doing, if you were in contact with your local representatives, they would also request the transfer for you. They would put the transfer, you would put the transfer through their office, your loved ones, and then they could help you push push that transfer forward, because a lot of people were getting transferred fast because somebody in their family had connection with a representative, congressman, congresswoman. But again, definitely disciplinary history plays a part.
Well, my Zoom masters have told me that in fact, Ashton has answered all the questions in the chat. So we can keep hearing from Eric and Chili for the next few minutes, unless someone comes up with some question that they. Okay. Please be sure. Oh, I love that. Okay. Yeah. So go ahead. We got a few more minutes, and we can rock on. I love it.
Something earlier that Eric.
Real quick, one of my questions about getting transferred to a facility that has programs. You guys have experience. So if I were going to write a transfer for myself, request a transfer, am I better off being specific? Like saying, hey, I want to go to Danville because they have this, this, and this. And now the loved ones are armed with this information to share. Okay, maybe you could elaborate, but that's kind of what I want to know.
Yeah. So I think every year, every individual that's incarcerated has the opportunity to request a transfer. And what they do is they ask the person who's requesting the transfer to name the 3 prisons that you would like to go to. And then after identifying each of those prisons, the counselor will ask you, what are your reasons for wanting to go to that particular facility? If the individual requesting the transfer says that education is the primary reason for that transfer, the likelihood that you get the choice of the institution that you want to go to based on that reason will be higher than if you say, oh, it's because it's closer to my family in Chicago. So if you have a loved one who's incarcerated and they're requesting a transfer to a particular facility, always use education as the reason for why you want to go to that facility, and then even try to educate the counselor on what particular program you want to take part in, because 9 times out of 10, the counselor themselves doesn't know what another facility offers. So they may be educating the counselor themselves on why and what's available at that particular institution, which usually works out for both parties in that conversation.
Ah,
And I'm not sure if Eric wants to add something to it.
yeah, I was gonna say, Eric.
Well, I was just gonna throw out there the connection with somebody to help you push from the outside, because everybody wants to go to these institutions that have these programs, because most people want to go to school, want to continue, want to do something, not just waste their time. So that's where that bottleneck Chile talks about, becomes a problem. So people who do have the advantage if you have somebody from the outside kind of pushing in or making phone calls, even to the institution.
No. And ultimately, what I think Ashton was getting to earlier is for us to advocate for the expansion of higher education opportunities in every facility. That work is currently happening, thankfully, through one of our colleagues, and of course, again, the work that Freedom to Learn and ILCHEP is doing. But there's also one of our colleagues, Angel Pantoja. He's currently working for the Office of the Lieutenant Governor as the Reentry Policy Coordinator. So I'm pretty sure that if all of us just begin to really coalesce around this work that's happening and show strength in numbers, that we'll have an easier time convincing legislators to begin passing some of the legislation like the MAP grant opportunity that Ashton was speaking to, because it all interconnects. And honestly, the way that I've experienced different spaces, whether in government or at the grassroots working for direct service organizations, true change always begins from the people on the ground. Parents, siblings, aunts, uncles. The more of us begin to really collectively build a voice together, the easier it'll be for our loved ones to get access to what it is that they need and want.
Absolutely. And I just want to emphasize that our state has already created a plan for how to expand higher ed in prison. Chile was the chair of a statewide task force, the first in the nation, that studied higher education in prison. And as a result of that task force, there was a report released that I'll put in the chat that outlines 31 recommendations for expanding and protecting higher ed in prison in Illinois. And so the blueprint is already there. We just need to hold our policymakers to putting that plan into action.
Ashton, oh, okay. You put in how she could get the book. Okay. Those books are very cool.
I think I see Heather has her hand up.
Okay, where is Heather? Okay, go Heather.
Thank you. Just a question. I know that the majority of individuals who are in the correctional system will return to community. And so even a stronger reason for why we should be engaging in and expanding educational opportunities. But I didn't know if anyone on this meeting knew like what that percentage approximately might be, but I know it's the vast majority are going to be returning.
And I'm quoting a number from back in 20, I believe it was 2016, but that number relatively doesn't change. And the reason it doesn't change is because the majority of people have an exit date. You still have too many that are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the overwhelming majority will be returning to communities in Illinois. And I think the best argument we can make is why not accomplish what is in the mission of the Illinois Department of Corrections, right, says it does, which is to rehabilitate people and really set them up for success as productive members of society when you get home. Like education is and has always been that one resource that is that creates access to not only upward mobility, but just a sense of growth.
Mm. And I'll just throw in quickly that something that people don't really think about is that we talk about higher education programs in the US. In Illinois, people are going to go back to their communities in Illinois and Chicago, but there is a group of people like myself that were deported and are going to be deported. So all that education we receive while incarcerated, we bring that with us to countries like Mexico and Latin America and other places where specifically today and this week, I'm here for a conference created and ran by people who have been deported, some of them from the US, some of them from other places. And it's like a coalition it's called Incarcerated Nations, of people from all over the world that were incarcerated and got education. And now we're in Mexico City and coming together from different programs from LA, from Illinois, from New York, and people that didn't even grow up in Mexico. Like myself, I was in the US when I was 4 months old, and people are here similarly like me. And now they're running these conferences with the education and the programs they assisted and helped create in the US that they're still running, but they can't even participate in them anymore because we don't have access to the US.
Well,
And this
I
is
want to
what's
say it
amazing
was a
about,
loss for the US, Eric, when you got deported.
yeah, it still is.
Yes.
And I wanted to say, like, EJP being, and I'm always gonna be like the biggest cheerleader for EJP, but these are conversations that I remember having within the first couple of years that EJP was at Danville. We used to have this thing where we came together for semester convenience. I forget what they were called, but they were critical climate discussions that we would have with all the student body. And I remember one particular conversation being around EJP Without Borders. I'm very saddened that I don't have my brother next to me to be able to just laugh and hug whenever we want, man. But I remember like having that discussion around what influence could EJP have if there wasn't if there weren't imaginary lines that separated communities like Mexico. And now Eric is spreading that awareness of EJP. I just wish again that he had access to coming back and spending time with us here in the United States. One of the last things I want to say before I forget is that EJP did not just offer credits for higher education in prison or post-secondary once you got out. What EJP has done is that it has created opportunities for social capital. What I mean by that is it's not only what we've learned or the credits that we've been able to acquire, but the relationships that have been built that have created access for people like myself, for people like Joseph Mapp, who's now or being the director of reentry for the city of Chicago out of the mayor's office, for others who are executive directors of organizations doing wonderful work in the city of Chicago and central and southern Illinois. The social capital that EJP created was to create access and opportunities, which Eric alluded to earlier. Like, how do we expand that? How do we create those opportunities for people to network, to use and leverage whatever access that they have to create opportunities for those that are returning into the communities? So for someone like me, to come home and be told prior to me coming home, you don't have to worry about a job. The reaction that I had initially, and excuse my language, but you're full of shit, right? Because we're so used to people forgetting us once we leave the carceral system or once we go into the carceral system. But that person actually created access, and that's how I met Father Kelly. And Father Kelly, just sitting in a conversation like we're having today, after about 30, 40 minutes, offered me a job, the first job that I ever had in my life, mentoring young people in back of the yards. It was that social capital that created access for me to go and work for the office of lieutenant governor through a mutual relationship that I built as a result of being at Precious Blood. It was that same social capital that created an opportunity for me to go work for the Illinois Department of Human Services. And to now be working in philanthropy, making sure that organizations like EJP, like Precious Blood, like Restore Justice are able to get the funding that they need in order to continue the good work that they do. But this again, like it's not just transactional, it's relational, and that's what true education should be about. Being able to transform lives and continue to give back in a ripple effect way, which is another program that's done by the EJP family.
Well, I really can't thank all of you enough. I know everyone who gets this recording is going to be so thankful for it, because I think this is really going to help people ask for very specific transfers, and that will help. I know everyone asks for them, but when you just say this in this program, it does help a lot. Restore Justice, that we want to thank all of you. This, like I said, is the first one of the year, our loved one self-advocacy, trying to help loved ones self-advocate, for especially for their people inside. And the DOC is a difficult place to navigate. We will be having one every other month. I am working on getting a couple of people, the new family liaison, to join a call, and I am trying to get Chief Perrick, Director of Programs, to join a call. So some of those dates are a little hard to pin down, but all of you will be on our mailing list. And you will get an email on it. And I would really recommend that all of you get involved with ILCHEP and reach out to your state senator and have them say yes to that bill. Let's expand the programs. So anyway, thank you all. And I will add Mary. This is us. Stay in touch.
Here's our
And
info.
again, thank you. Yes.
We'll send out the slides, both our slides with the presenters' bios and Ashton's amazing slides. And
Such a good resource.
yeah, for real.
My gosh.
Thank you all
Ashton,
so much.
you like just, well, all three of you, but wow. That is
Thank you,
incredible.
guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you
all.
so much. Good night.